Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name's Sophie and this channel is chronicling my journey of living my best life with multiple chronic illnesses. Today I wanted to talk about end-of-life decisions and how to go about having those conversations. First, I will say I've had many loved ones die, as I said in last week's Saturday video. My grandma died when I was 6, my mom when I was 11, my grandpa when I was 14, my father figure when I think I was like 28, and then my great aunt when I was 29. And I know those are sort of a strange assortment of people, but I didn't grow up living with my biological parents. My mom didn't have custody of me. I lived with my grandmother, my grandpa, and my great aunt. And then when my grandma and grandpa died, my great aunt got custody of me, and my father figure, who I called Dad, was a friend of the family who was, as you would expect, like a father figure to me. So that's my assortment of people that raised me. So all of them have since died. So I have always been comfortable talking about death and dying since a very young age because my mom had AIDS. So I was raised knowing that she was going to die young. And it's just been something that's not a taboo subject when I was growing up. So I am familiar with it. And my last video did a lot better than I was expecting. Wasn't expecting that many people to look at it. But anyway, so advance directives and living wills and power of attorney. What are they? Why should you have them? Advance directive or living will is basically letting people know what you would like done if you were unable to make decisions for yourself. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you have something like dementia or you're cognitively impaired. It could also mean you were in a bad car accident and decisions need to be made. A lot of those decisions have to do with things like, do you want artificial hydration? Do you want artificial nutrition? Do you want CPR done? Do you want to be intubated, which is when they put a tube down your throat so they can breathe for you? And if you do not have an advance directive or a medical power of attorney, which I'll talk about in a second, the decision is made to do everything to keep you alive. Now, you may think this is a good thing, but sometimes it's not. There have been cases where people have, they call it coded, when their heart stops multiple times because they were doing everything to save them and their body just couldn't stay alive on its own. So you're putting this person through all of this medical trauma, and in the end, the person ends up dying anyway. It's a really unfortunate situation. That's one of the reasons I strongly advocate for everyone to have an advance directive and, if possible, a medical power of attorney. A power of attorney is a person you appoint to make decisions for you. They should be someone you trust to make those decisions and someone that will make those decisions according to your wishes and in your best interest. In other words, it should not be a person who is always going to say, do everything possible to keep them alive. Because as I said, sometimes, unfortunately, that's just not the right decision. Sometimes the best decision is to let the person die naturally. So in my case, I do have an advance directive and I do have a medical power of attorney. I also have a financial power of attorney, which has nothing to do with end of life, but they're just able to make financial decisions for you if you're unable to. And that's even like if I'm on vacation or in the hospital and I can't pay my bills, my financial power of attorney can do that for me. But medical power of attorney, advance directives, all of that, I just think is so important. As I've said in other videos, I do work in the medical profession, so I have seen instances where it's just so sad and the staff is doing everything they can to keep someone alive, and we all know the person is not going to make it. But we either don't have an advance directive, there is no power of attorney, and so we're obligated to do everything we can to keep that person alive. If you are ever in the hospital and they come over the intercom and they call a code blue, that is what happens when someone goes into cardiac arrest, and that is when they will go and try to resuscitate the person using CPR, possible intubation, and things of that nature. You may also hear the terms full code. That basically means do everything to keep the person alive. You can have, they also will say the person coded. That's a cardiac arrest also. Then they have bracelets if you were a DNR or a DNI. So a DNR is a do not resuscitate, and that means no CPR, no intubation. If the heart stops, you don't try to restart the heart. DNI is do not intubate, and with that, you can do CPR, but the person does not want you to stick a tube down their throat to keep them alive that way. So all of these are decisions that you should talk about with your loved ones, with your doctor, and have it spelled out, notarized, signed, put in paper, made official, just because you never know if you are going to get into a car accident or, God forbid, someone assaults you or something happens. No one ever knows. Some people say, oh, I'm too young to have a living will, or I'm too young to have a medical power of attorney. No one is too young to have these documents, and I just think they're really important. I will say when my dad died, we had multiple discussions even about various scenarios. If he were to have had a stroke and he was unable to care for his daily needs, like he was unable to toilet himself or feed himself, he would not want to be kept alive artificially at all. The situation that ended up happening was I found him and he was unresponsive. I couldn't wake him up. And when I had asked what he wanted me to do in that situation, he said it was okay to do everything possible, because in that situation, sometimes you don't know. In his situation, I did know, but again, his wishes were to do everything possible, and so that's what we did. But yeah, I know this is like a heavy topic, and I know I use the words death, dying a lot versus the person passed away or stuff like that, and that's just again how I was brought up. We didn't really use any of those type of euphemisms. It was always death, dying. So I'm kind of blunt with that. If I'm talking with someone in person and I can sense they're uncomfortable, I will say pass away instead of dying or dead, but normally, as you see, I do not. I think that's going to wrap this up. I know it's a heavy one, but I just think it's a really important topic, because seeing the other side of things when we're in the hospital, when they're doing everything possible to keep someone alive, when there's just really no chance of survival, is just really hard on everyone involved, including the loved ones who are watching their loved one struggle to stay alive again and again and again. So please have these conversations with your loved ones, make your wishes known, get them put on paper, make sure your doctor has a copy so it's on your medical record and can be scanned in. Yeah, that's going to be it, guys. I will talk to you next time.